Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting episode of FiST Chat, the vodcast that discusses topics related to film, science and technology. My name's Ben Warner and I'm joined again by Stephen Kern. How you doing there, Steve?
Good, mate, good. Hello to everyone out there in FiST Chat land.
And hopefully, the episode today will be quite interesting. We're going to be talking about outer space and in particular humanity's future and how those two come together. It's quite an interesting topic and it really spurs the imagination because if you really think about it, and as we'll discuss the topic as we go along, it really is only limited by our imagination, and maybe those things that we see in sci-fi movies and books and things are really not that out of realm of possibility. So, just to kickstart the topic, essentially, even though it's going to be obviously on a long time scale, at some point the Earth will become uninhabitable. So just by definition, in that respect, if we are going to survive, assuming, global warming doesn't kill us or we don't, blow the planet up or anything like that, if we continue on, at some point we're going to have to leave the Earth because it won't be able to take us anymore.
About 5 billion years' time, Ben.
And I'm sure probably by that point we would have evolved into rays of light or something like that.
I certainly hope so. It's going to be pretty unpleasant. But it's a really good topic you raised there because Arthur C. Clarke, who certainly has made a lot of great predictions, he did make a lot of great predictions. One of the ones that he did say is that, the future for humans is in space, and ultimately that's where humanity will, evolve into whatever the next human sort of species is, and it will be primarily for your reasons there that you've stated. Either it'll be 5 billion years' time when the sun starts to make life here uninhabitable, or it'll be well before when we make life here uninhabitable.
Yeah. It would still be well before anything like that, because because in that 5 billion year time, it's not that the sun will have ended its lifetime. It's just that it'll have grown to a point where it will make life uninhabitable on Earth.
Yeah, our sun, our yellow sun, will expand, and with it will take the inner three planets. So Mars, Venus, and Earth will all be gone.
No, we'll have to move to Jupiter or Saturn or something like that in the meantime.
Yeah, we might be living on Titan or something, Uranus.
Well, it's quite interesting, isn't it? One thing that leaps off the page straight away for me is the idea of, say, gravity. Now, that might sound like a simple thing, but if you think about it, we evolved in this environment where there's gravity. You would think that physiologically that's going to affect us in some way and change us, wouldn't it?
Oh, no, definitely. You just have to look at the astronauts that have spent long times in space and how long it takes them to recover when they get back to Earth with 1G. Interestingly, though, on this topic, really, and I think that this is probably pretty likely, is that the first or the next step for humans will be to become Martians. So we will get to Mars probably in about 20, 30 years' time, and somewhere after that, a human will be born on Mars, but they won't be human, will they? They'll be a Martian. Yeah, they better have filled in the paperwork before they decide to return to Earth.
Oh.
But
think of all the passport and immigration issues there.
I don't know, do they have laws for Martians? No, they have to be granted asylum as soon as they get here. But, that will be the first step. So you would expect that humans would colonise probably Mars, and then maybe some of the larger moons around Jupiter or Saturn. Obviously Titan would be a great candidate for that. But you're right, that's what will change us. Not needing a skeleton to bear 1G of weight. Mars, I think gravity is 38% of what it is here on Earth. So on the moon it's 1/6, so about 16%, I think. So basically, in those environments, people really do change.
Yeah, well, it's quite fascinating. I mean, you see, like, your odd science fiction film or whatever, and people are just walking around like normal or whatever. And obviously, having watched the film 2001, and obviously read the book as well, the idea of the spaceships that have to spin in order to generate a center of gravity for humans to walk on and things like that. But they're all technology questions, I guess, in terms of how you create that sort of thing. And I'm sure that, if there's adequate funding for it, people will, eventually research it and go for it.
Absolutely. Just on that, though, and this is for another topic and another FiST chat, but 2001, the science is actually pretty good. Much better than a lot of other Hollywood films in the meantime. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, but those technologies will come. 50 years ago, it seemed unlikely that we could ever, put up geostationary satellites. But Arthur C. Clarke predicted that. Now we have them everywhere, and probably in the 60s, while it was a huge mission to get anyone into space, Virgin Galactic is soon to launch, the very first civilian astronauts to space. So I think it will get easier and easier for all of us to get into space.
Well, that's an interesting point that you've just brought up there, that like the Virgin Atlantic part of it, where it's a commercial flight. And
Virgin Galactic, actually. Sorry if I said Atlantic. It's Virgin Galactic.
I'm sure he'll get Atlantic up there as the budget version. But that's another interesting point. If you think about it, a lot of the dollars that, ever since the start of the space program, there was a political and military reason behind going into space, whereas it would seem like you would think coming along now into the future that there's probably a little bit more, hopefully you would think, that would necessitate us to put a lot of research and development into going into space. And you would think that, given human curiosity and that desire for knowledge, that even though there is a necessity for us to leave the Earth because, out of the fact that, the sun will eventually burn us to a crisp if we stay here, but you would think that well before that, that desire for humans to explore new territory, explore new things, will probably push us a lot earlier out into space, wouldn't you say?
Well, pretty sure there's some fans out there in science fiction land who are certain that our world leaders can already get into space in case of a catastrophe. It's very interesting that, and that has been mentioned many times, that, effectively the whole space race was made possible because of the political will, the will of a whole nation to win that race into space on both sides. We don't have anything that pressing at the moment, and possibly if the Cold War had continued, we might already be at Mars today.
So do you think that's what's been, stagnating the space programs of late? That sort of political will, and that. But the thing is that what was driving that was almost, that it's like a fierce competition to, beat the other guy. But that isn't really there now, is it?
Oh, come on, China. All our friends in China, you start getting those rockets up there and then we'll all be in space before you know it.
Oh, fantastic. And now, just thinking about when we do make that step into space, is there anything, do you think that leaps off as what we would need to do, things that we would need to do to adapt to life in space and on other planets?
Well, that's a really interesting question as well, because, if you're actually looking at the future of humanity, one other thing that's also happening right now is the ability for, bionics and stem cell research, potential, as we spoke about in an early episode, of immortality. If you can start reinvigorating the body with spare parts, spare organs, if you can start increasing lifespans through that, if you can even, start putting robotic parts on or computer parts into a person, electronic parts, what then? You may well be already modernising the human before they get into space. I mean, it's up to anyone's imagination. I'd love to hear from anyone out there. Send us a design of what we might look like in 150 years.
It boggles the mind almost. Do you think there are? I mean, this is more of a philosophical question, but humans are probably going to have to get over a lot of things, aren't they, if they're going to adapt to a change like that?
Well, that's the point I'm making. I think if you look back at the Immortal episode we spoke about, Aubrey de Grey says that any child born today has a 50% chance of living to be 150 years of age. That's perfect for space travel. If you've got a lab there on your spacecraft where you can grow organs or regrow cells to replenish someone who's got a kidney failure or a leaky heart or something like that, well, then effectively you're creating a brand new human.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it's going to be like Terminator, but it is pretty scary. It is pretty scary what we might come up with for ourselves.
Yeah. I'm sure it might even be something that we can't even sort of see easily, because you don't know until someone discovers it. Like today's science fiction is tomorrow's science fact kind of thing.
That's what they say.
I mean, who would have thought we'd be running around with phones the size, smaller than the palm of your hand, and you can go anywhere in the world and be in contact with anyone? I mean, who would have thought that you could have, video conferencing? Who thought we could go into space?
Exactly
at the time. So it's just an ever-rolling sort of thing, and it'll be a very fascinating thing to watch.
Well, how much of it do you think we'll see?
I think, like for us, I think we'll see humans colonize Mars, maybe, or at least that get to Mars. I would think at some point they're probably, assuming of course we get that political will happening. But I think that's a very real possibility.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. I think you and I will see humans get to Mars, no question. I mean, they can do it now. They just don't know how to get people back from Mars. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's why they're not doing it. But I think our children will see a child born on Mars, and that'll be the first Martian, and that will be the first new human species.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's probably a good point to finish up on. So, lot to think about there, and I'm sure we'll probably come back to this topic, and investigate various other bits and pieces from it.
It's a huge topic. You can't cover it in 15 minutes.
But that's why we're always here, week in and week out, to cover it. All right, so yeah, thanks again for listening in. Don't forget FiST Chat. All our links are available at www.fistchat.com, FISTCHAT. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter. Our episodes are on YouTube. You can download us for your portable device, iPhone, iPod, or whatever device, and you can listen to us. And you can also get us on iTunes as well. So the next episode we're going to be, which is actually going to be recorded today as well, we're going to be talking about Apple's App Store and certain subscription features that have suddenly come to light and have caused a lot of controversy in tech circles and what that means for the consumer. So until that episode, we'll catch you then.